This is a Fox News alert. President Trump signing off on a new travel ban, now limiting U.S. entry for citizens of 8 countries, adding North Korea, Venezuela, and Chad to the expanded list. Let's bring in Gillian Turner, former White House national security staffer to Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama, also a Fox News contributor. Good morning, Gillian.
Good morning, Shannon.
Okay, so this kind of flew under the radar for a lot of folks who were very consumed by the dispute between the NFL and the president. It's very important, though, because the original ban was about to expire. So how is this one different?
Well, so this one is very different in a nutshell. I think that some of the differences will become known to people as they parse through this. But I was reading through it last night, and the first things about it that struck me were that it has less countries overall, which is fairly significant. It has one less country, to be specific. They took great care to sort of ground this new policy in factors other than religion. I think the administration sort of zeroed in on the fact that a lot of the legal challenges to the original travel ban were based on the fact that it appeared to be discriminatory against Muslims. So in this revised order, a few of the countries are not Muslim-majority countries, which sort of hedges against the future liability that might befall them based on this. Another really important thing about this one is it gives all the nations that are included the opportunity to comply with U.S. guidance in the future and to sort of graduate out of the ban. So while it is permanent, there's no automatic expiration date like the previous bans. This one has, sort of presents equal opportunity for all the nations to move away from this and not be part of it in the future, which is important.
And no surprise that there are critics. There have been all along. There have been numerous court challenges with differing levels of success. But there's a group called Muslim Advocates that said this when the new release went out. They said, let us not be fooled by the administration's attempted tricks and semantics. This is still the same Muslim ban. They went on to say, just shy of 2 weeks before the Supreme Court oral arguments in the Muslim and refugee ban case, the administration is attempting to circumvent the courts once more and to undermine our Constitution. And the president's argument is that he's trying to uphold the Constitution. He says the safety of the American people is his #1 goal. But opponents here say it's just window dressing. It's just the same thing. It's just discriminatory and adding countries like North Korea and Venezuela, where I think the estimate on North Korean visas that were granted in the last fiscal year, just a little over 100. It's not like there are thousands of people pouring in from North Korea. They say adding those countries is of no consequence. And in Venezuela's cases, it's government officials who are banned from coming.
I do see both sides of the coin, not to equivocate, but I think that where you are on this issue is based on where you sit, meaning the way you respond to this travel ban as emotionally is going to be based on what you think about President Trump. I'm trying to take a step back from that when I think about this myself and look at the policy as it's written on paper. And what I see with this new order is that they've taken great care to emphasize and ground this in a policy review process. Nothing is arbitrary. None of the countries that are included in this revised order are singled out. None of them have been under consideration for different criteria than the others. It was a fairly standardized procedure. This is something the original ban totally lacked. And so I'm more inclined from a policy perspective to get on board with this one because the administration has taken the time and the intellectual rigor needed in order to execute something like this. How it gets implemented will be up to the Department of Homeland Security and the courts and other federal departments and agencies. But what the White House has put on paper with this order is a lot more solid than the 2 versions we've seen prior to this.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, this is an extensive review process, so people understand when part of the ban was put on hold and various courts were taking bites out of it, the one thing that was allowed to proceed was this review with the State Department and Homeland Security asking these countries to provide information to the U.S. How do you vet these people? How do you track passports? How do you track exit and entry? What about potential terror links in these people's backgrounds? And so essentially what they did was tell all countries across the board, here are the criteria we need you to meet so your citizens can come here. If you don't meet it, then you're going to get put on the list, and hence the list that we have. You also mentioned that these countries can then work themselves off the list. In the meantime, the legal challenges are going to continue. Judge Napolitano is coming up. He's going to talk with Bill a little bit more about what this is facing at the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, these countries do have an exit ramp.
They do, and some of them have already taken that exit ramp. So the original, not the original, but what the White House was looking at a few weeks ago was something along, if you believe reporting from inside the administration, they had a list compiled of 17 countries. What they did was they said to everybody, here are the U.S. requirements. You must share information with us about known and suspected terrorist operatives inside your borders. You must be able to prove that the passports you issue to your citizens are not easily pirated. You must try and do everything you can to shore up the system there, the passport producing system. Some of the countries were able to comply, and as we saw, 8 of them fell off the original list. So there's no reason why the remaining countries cannot in the future comply with U.S. policy and U.S. requirements and also drop off this list. That's what I mean when I say it's an equitable system this time around. There is nothing arbitrary here. Everybody is being subjected to the same standards.
Yeah, now we'll wait to see if, as some of the lower courts have done, they brought in the campaign rhetoric that the president used on the trail, associates and affiliates of his on the trail, to say what a quote, Muslim ban was going to be all about, and whether that will stand up against, as you said, what they've now put on paper. We'll see. Gillian Turner, thank you very much. Always good to see you.
Thanks, Shannon. Have a great day.